We've got some really interesting stuff to tell you about in our Out There segment. But before we get to that, I just wanted to give you a brief update on Michael Avenatti. And this is a segment that we ought to title, Oh, How the Mighty Have Fallen. I mean, here's a guy that was on CNN like every day last year. He was on CNN like 120-something times last year. And it's just been an absolute media darling. Remember when he was representing Stormy Daniels and he would go on TV and say all these horrible things about the president and that Don Jr. was just about to be indicted next week and, trust him because when he says trust him, like Avenatti saying, trust me because I have a good track record of predictions. I always know what's going to happen. And, of course, toward the end there, his track record went from, well, let's say good to, he could never get anything right. And again, what has happened to Michael Avenatti lately? We're not going to have time to discuss all this, so I'm just going to run through some things. He's been fired by Stormy Daniels, who, by the way, said that he was embezzling money from her because he set up these GoFundMe accounts in her name and never accounted to her for the money. Got a couple $1 million and never showed her how it was spent. I mean, that money should have gone to her if he didn't spend it all. But a guy like that, he never returns money to a client. He always spends it all, which is part of the reason that he's in bankruptcy trouble. We know he's been in bankruptcy, and there's a lot of allegations that he's lied to the bankruptcy trustee about different accounts. He's been setting up different trust accounts. Just last week, they seized his twin-engine jet in California, which he says, like water off a duck's back, I wasn't even using the jet anymore. Now, don't believe that for a second, folks. When you know what a jet costs you to maintain over the year, if you're not using it anymore, you sell it, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, they seized his jet. He's also been charged in an extortion scheme trying to extort Nike, the company, for $25 million. Now, these are all separate issues. And then late last week, he was indicted in California on a 36-count indictment, including things like bank fraud and embezzlement of client funds. And this may not be the end for him. So for a 48-year-old guy who just a couple of years ago was basically on top of the world, we're going to see just exactly how far he falls. Now, he maintains that he's innocent of all these charges, of course, and we will grant him the assumption that he is innocent until the court cases are resolved. But that's a lot of smoke there, folks, and we've brought to you examples of some of his bad behavior, and we've read about him. I've researched some of what he's done in the bankruptcy court, and I'll just tell you from what I can see online, it doesn't look good for him. There's some real serious violations that appear through the record, and maybe there's a good explanation for him. Maybe he's got an excuse. Maybe there's a way out of it, but it doesn't look good right now for Michael Avenatti. So, oh, how the mighty have fallen. And we should remember that. Sometimes you can be on top of the world, but if you got there in a dastardly way, you're going down, kind of like a Bernie Madoff. There was a point at which Bernie Madoff was absolutely on top of the world, and nobody would have ever thought that he would fall so far. But now he's spending the rest of his life in federal prison. He spent more time in federal prison than he ever spent on top of the world. So these are things to think about. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.